Okay. Okay. Well, this is the first Monday of August. And what does that mean? That means this is Sharing Monday. And so instead of continuing with our Franz Kafka reading of the trial today, we will punt that to next week, and we will share various writings that each of us have felt that we want to share with the others in the group. And with that brief introduction, I would invite Tom to begin.
Okay, Duncan, yeah, I'm going to read a poem by the Irish poet, writer, lecturer, Brendan Kennelly, and it's called The Good. The good are vulnerable as any bird in flight. They do not think of safety, are blind to possible extinction, and when most vulnerable, are most themselves. The good are real as the sun, are best perceived through clouds of casual corruption that cannot kill the luminous sufficiency that shines on city, sea, and wilderness, fastidiously revealing one man to another, who yet will not accept responsibilities of light. The good inclined to praise, to have the knack of seeing that the best is not destroyed, although forever threatened. The good go naked in all weathers, and by their nakedness rebuke the small protective sanities that hide men from themselves. The good are difficult to see, though open, rare, destructible. Always they retain a kind of youth, the vulnerable grace of any bird in flight, content to be itself, accomplished master and potential victim, accepting what the earth or sky intends. I think that I know one or two among my friends. Yeah. So that's Brendan Kennelly, who was born in a small place in Kerry, in Ballylongford in County Kerry, but he became a professor of modern literature in Trinity, and he's written many, many books and poems. And he is a brilliant lecturer, brilliant raconteur. Um, there's Declan Kerbert, who is a professor now himself, and he's written, who wrote a book on Ulysses, the one with the famous photograph of Marilyn Monroe on the cover. He goes through each, but he was attending Brendan Kennelly's lectures as a student, and he tells the story of how he turned to a fellow student and inquired as to what particular part of literature he was studying. And the student said, I'm not studying English literature at all, I'm studying engineering, but I just came in here to hear Brendan Kennelly lecture, you know. So he gave many, many readings on Kavanagh, on Lurka, and he's written, yeah, plenty of books and plenty of poetry books. But that idea of goodness, I think, is really good, because I always link it to a short story by Somerset Maugham,
Mhm.
the great English writer. He has a very short story, and it's called Salvatore. It's only about 4 pages. And I'm just going to read the first line and the last few lines of it, just in connection with that idea
Mhm.
of goodness. And he begins the story, I wonder if I can do it. And it's a very simple story about a young fisherman. And I said it's only 4.5 pages. But this is the way Somerset Maugham ends it. I started by saying that I wondered if I could do it, and now I must tell you what it is that I have tried to do. I wanted to see whether I could hold your attention for a few pages while I drew for you the portrait of a man, just an ordinary fisherman, who possessed nothing in the world except a quality which is the rarest, the most precious, and the loveliest that anyone can have. Heaven only knows why he should so strangely and unexpectedly have possessed it. All I know is that it shone in him with a radiance that, if it had not been so unconscious and so humble, would have been the common run, would have been to the common run of men hardly bearable. And in case you have not guessed what the quality is, what the quality was, I will tell you, goodness, just goodness. Yeah, so I think that quality is never mentioned now much. You talk about people being strong and being brave and being all this kind of thing, but there are
Mm.
lots of people that are just simply good in themselves. So that's why I like that poem by Kennelly. Yeah,
That was a beautiful poem.
yeah,
Beautiful.
mm,
Very beautiful poem.
Bravo.
yeah,
I throw something in there, particularly for Tom.
yeah.
I knew Brendan Kennelly relatively well
Good.
because
Yeah,
he was a friend of Charlie Haughey's, who was the Irish Prime Minister.
yeah,
And I worked for Haughey for years. But
yeah,
Haughey's tradition was to go to Kerry every summer,
yeah,
and he would open the Dingle Regatta by firing his shotgun.
yeah,
But he would also read a poem for the occasion.
yeah.
And what people didn't know was that Brendan Kennelly actually wrote the poem and
Okay.
was happy for Haughey to put his name to it. So
Yeah,
there are a series of poems like that
yeah,
that are attributed to Charlie Haughey, but in fact belong to
yeah.
Brendan Kennelly.
Kennelly.
But
Yeah.
Brendan didn't mind that.
No.
Wow.
But he would often, I mean, there's so many stories. He wasn't your normal professor. I mean, in the early days when he could do it, he used to lead his students out from Trinity across to O'Neill's pub and
Yeah.
lecture them there. And
Yes.
he used to walk around town a lot and talk to anybody and everybody that he met, especially kind of early in the mornings.
Yes.
And his two longer poems were um, Judas and Cromwell. He had this notion of you had to confront and try to get to grips with the most kind of reviled kind of people that you could find, and then try and find something with them. So he wrote a long poem about Cromwell, who was the name even in Ireland is still hated. And then he wrote the Book of Judas, where Judas is the name that comes right down to history as you're only a Judas, you're this kind of thing and that kind of thing. And he explored that as well. But those are two very long poems, but he has many, many lovely kind of short poems. Yeah. So that's, yeah.
There was, if I may, Tom, there was one
Yeah.
day in Sweeney's on a Monday. I used to cover Mondays with Josephine Russell.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know this, do you? Well, you weren't there by any chance, but
No.
it was kind of, we close up at 6 o'clock and go home. But
Mm.
in those days we had a chair outside, like a garden seat,
Yeah.
like a park bench outside the window. And I looked out and I was sort of going to lock up, and there was a fella sitting in it, and he looked a bit drunk, which sometimes happened. And
Yeah.
I went in and kind of wait for him to go, and so just when he go out, I go out and move him, rather than fella doing it. But she went out and she didn't come back.
Mm.
I was waiting there, and I went out and I looked. The two of them were chatting away.
Yeah.
And eventually he went off, and Josephine came in. I said, "What kept you?" She said, "That's Brendan Kennelly."
Yeah.
Yeah. He was very George on the seat,
Yeah. Yeah.
beside the traffic light.
Yeah.
So only Josephine would spot that. I wouldn't have rigged it.
I saw a title of an article this morning. The title itself just struck me, and it's related to what you read, Tom.
Yeah.
It was how to build a nest in an uncertain world.
That's lovely. Yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
about birds,
Yeah.
building
Yeah.
nests.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to go ahead and do it anyway. Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah.
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 Well, my wife who passed, she was a big hummingbird fan.
Yeah.
No.
And her passion was such that she drugged me along, and I aided and abetted her by taking her to various places where there were hummingbirds, and we had hummingbird feeders and plants everywhere. So
Yeah.
I learned a lot about the hummingbird, and the hummingbird is, like the chance taker extraordinaire.
Mm.
They're little tiny things, and their hearts beat at some ridiculous number of times an hour, and they're competitive among each other, and they build these little tiny nests, and they have these little tiny eggs, that not even the size of a marble. And they're vulnerable. They fly. They come through Texas in September, and they gather on the coast of Texas, and they tank up as best they can because their next journey is to fly across the Gulf of Mexico,
Mm.
which is
Wow.
Yeah.
a long, long way.
Yeah, for a
These
little
little
bird.
tiny birds
Yeah.
in the elements going this long distance, and it is and was pretty astounding.
Mm.
Yeah, and they're kind of goodness and beauty personified, or birdified, I guess birdified.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay, Joan, I guess we're looking forward to what you have for us.
This is very different. I don't think there's too much to say about this except just to enjoy it. It's by Salman Rushdie. It's a reading from one of his children's books called Luke and the Fire of Life. And it does show how clever Rushdie can be. And I think I copied it out of the book because I thought it was so charming. And it's a description of a man. I won't say anything about him. Let Rushdie say the whole thing.
Mm.
He was a man of hair and anger, this Og, whose henna-tinted locks stood out from his head like wrathful orange serpents. A man too, of chin hair, whose russet beard stuck out in all directions like rays of an ill-tempered sun. A man of eyebrows, quarrelsome scarlet brushes, which curled upwards and outwards above a pair of glaring black eyes. And a man also of ear hair, long, still crimson strands of ear hair that corkscrewed outward from both of those fleshy organs of hearing. Blood red hair sprouted up from Ag's shirt at the collar and out from his pirate's greatcoat at the cuffs. And sometimes I can't read my writing. And Luke imagined the captain's entire body covered in luxurious growth, as that body were a form of hair, its only crop. Soroya, also a flame-haired person, whispered in Luke's right ear that this Grand Master's bushy excessivity of hair might give redheads a bad name. The hair was Ag's anger. The hair was Ag's anger made visible.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought it was charming.
Yeah. Kind of very descriptive and
That we all think of Rushdie as being so serious.
yeah.
I think he must have been a wonderful grandpa.
Mm.
This is his children's books should be read by adults because they're wonderful.
So he wrote a number of children's books. I mean,
I've read 2. I don't know if he wrote more than that or not.
okay.
So like I say,
Well-
there's nothing much to say about it except just to kind of enjoy it.
Did you read The Grime? And I'm not sure if it's an adult or a children book by Salman Rushdie. And I suppose the main thing about it is if you stop believing in them, they disappear.
Oh,
So I must have read it a very long time ago. I don't remember anything else about it.
yeah. But it shows up the same kind of thing. He has great imagination for children. And it had to be a charming book.
That image of the man with the hair all over is pretty gripping.
Yeah, coming out of everything you can think of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we are ready for you, Donna.
Okay. I'm going to read you a piece from one of my favorite poems, John Milton, who would not be so popular nowadays. He was born in 1608 and died in 1674 from the gout. I would say he was a very unlikable individual, and you probably know that he wrote in Latin initially and then subsequently in English. But he was a very devout holy man, and you'd get his children up at 4 o'clock every morning to read the Bible in Latin. So I'd say their upbringing wasn't very happy either. But one of his major works is Paradise Lost. And you'll be glad to know I don't tend to attempt the whole poem because it's written in 12 books. So I'd like to give you a piece from Book 10, which goes as follows. Meanwhile, the heinous and despiteful act of Satan done in paradise, and how he in the serpent had perverted Eve, her husband she, to taste the fatal fruit, was known in heaven. For what can escape the eye of God all-seeing or deceive his heart? Omniscient, who in all things wise and just, hindered not Satan to attempt the mind of man, with strength entire and free, will armed, complete to have discovered and repulsed whatever wiles of foe or seeming friend, for still they knew, and ought to have still remembered, the high injunction not to taste that fruit, whoever tempted, which they not obeying, incurred, what could they less, the penalty, and manifold in sin, deserved to fall. Up into heaven from paradise in haste, the angelic guards ascended, mute and sad, for man, for of his state by this they knew, much wondering how the subtle fiend had stolen entrance unseen. Soon, as the unwelcome news from earth arrived at heaven gate, displeased all were who heard, dim sadness did not spare that time's celestial visages, yet mixed with pity, violated not their bliss. About the new arrived in multitudes, the ethereal people ran to hear and know how all befell. They, towards the throne supreme, accountable made haste to make appear with righteous plea their utmost vigilance, and easily approved, when the Most High Eternal Father from his secret cloud amidst in thunder uttered thus his voice. Assembled angels, and ye powers returned from unsuccessful charge, be not dismayed, nor troubled at these tidings from the earth, which your sincerest care could not prevent. Foretold so lately what would come to pass, when first this tempter crossed the gulf from hell. I told ye then he should prevail, and speed on his bad errand. Man should be seduced, and flattered out of all, believing lies against his maker, no decree of mine concurring to necessitate his fall. And so on it goes. So very powerful stuff, I think, and very enjoyable, I find. It's very musical. It's also very learned because
Yeah.
Joe will appreciate there are all sorts of classical references there, and you need to be checking the notes every line just to see what he's talking about. You know,
mm.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
that's me.
And entirely written after he had gone blind, right?
Correct. Yeah.
It's on my bucket list.
Oh, good. That'll prompt you further.
Yeah, it will.
Yeah.
I like the multiple viewpoints.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Katrina, I think we're ready.
All right. Excuse me. I just grabbed this off the shelf. I'm going to read from the ending of A River Runs Through It, Norman MacLean's lovely story about life in northwestern Montana.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
After my brother's death, my father never walked very well again. He had to struggle to lift his feet, and when he did get them up, they came right down slightly out of control. From time to time, Paul's right hand had been reaffirmed. Then my father would shuffle away again. He could not shuffle in a straight line from trying to lift his feet. Like many Scottish ministers before him, he had to derive what comfort he could from the faith that his son had died fighting. For some time, though, he struggled for more to hold on to. Are you sure you have told me everything you know about his death? He asked. I said, everything. It's not much, is it? No, I replied, but you can love completely without complete understanding. That I have known and preached, my father said. Once my father came back with another question. Do you think I could have helped him? He asked. Even if I might have thought longer, I would have made the same answer. Do you think I could have helped him? I answered. We stood waiting in deference to each other. How can a question be answered that asks a lifetime of questions? After a long time, he came up with something he must have just wanted to ask from the first. Do you think it was just to stick up and foolishly he tried to fight his way out? You know what I mean. It wasn't connected with anything in his past. The police don't know, I said. But do you? He asked, and I felt the implication. I've said I've told you all I know. If you push me far enough, all I really know is that he was a fine fisherman. You know more than that, my father said. He was beautiful. Yes, I said, he was beautiful. He should have been. You taught him. My father looked at me for a long time. He just looked at me. So this was the last he and I ever said to each other about Paul's death. Indirectly, though, he was present in many of our conversations. Once, for instance, my father asked me a series of questions that suddenly made me wonder whether I understood even my father, whom I felt closer to than any man I had ever known. You like to tell true stories, don't you? He asked, and I answered, yes, I like to tell stories that are true. Then he asked, after you finish your true stories sometime, why don't you make up a story and the people to go with it? Only then you will understand what happened and why. It is those we live with and love and should know who elude us. Now nearly all those I loved and did not understand when I was young are dead, but I still reach out to them. Of course, now I am too old to be much of a fisherman, and now, of course, I usually fish the big waters alone, although some friends think I shouldn't. Like many fly fishermen in western Montana, where the summer days are almost Arctic in length, I often do not start fishing until the cool of the evening. Then, in the Arctic half-light of the canyon, all existence fades to a being with my soul and memories and the sounds of the big Blackfoot River and the four-count rhythm and the hope that the fish will rise. Eventually, all things merge into one, and a river runs through it. The river was cut by the world's great flood and runs over rocks from the basement of time. On some of the rocks are timeless raindrops. Under the rocks are the words, and some of the words are theirs. I am haunted by waters.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
was
it
the
is
name
really
of the
lovely.
author,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's beautiful.
Gina?
Sorry, what was it?
What was the name of the author?
Oh, Norman MacLean, who wrote a
Norman.
lot of Western, American Western writer.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm. So for the frame of that book, though, I mean, do we know in the book, I mean, how did the brother die?
Oh, he gets beat up. He gets in a lot of trouble. He's a wonderful, wonderful fisherman, but just an uncontrollable person. And he gets
Okay.
himself in trouble. And the father just never can speak of it again. And
Mhm.
the brother who's talking is actually a reporter who'd studied, I think he went to Harvard and he studied and he came back and he worked in Chicago. So he knew much more of the wide, wide world. But his
Mhm.
brother just grew up in Montana and
Mhm.
lived in Montana, and that was what he knew, and it was a Montana way of life that he lived.
Mhm. Mhm.
Wasn't there a movie made of that?
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
Yeah,
Brad
that's
Brad
Pitt.
right.
Pitt.
yes.
Yeah,
There we go.
I
There
can
we go.
still see him throwing out the line for fishing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
What was
Yeah.
the name?
Yeah.
What was the name?
The name of the movie is the same as the book. The river
The
runs through
river
it.
runs through it.
Okay.
The movie with Brad Pitt when he
Mm-hmm.
was very young, and oh
yes.
my God, so handsome.
Listen
Long
to
time
that.
ago.
You can hear it in the voice,
There
the lilt in the voice.
Oh my God. And you got me wanting to go and order the movie from the library.
It's a
The
wonderful
scenery.
movie. I love that movie. I love that story.
Yeah.
And it, a large part because it's so beautifully written.
Mm-hmm. You read it very well.
Well,
Read it
thank
very
you.
well, yes.
Yeah, lovely.
Well, I've got something very, very different. There will be a contrast from some of the stuff we've already heard because I am I am taking my reading today from an article in the most recent Atlantic magazine. And it is, let me see, let me get to it first. Oh, yes. So this is an article called How to Live Forever and Get Rich Doing It. So this is a I'm sure there's always been this attempt to live forever. And now we have our new modern attempt, and we have some very wealthy people trying to live forever, or at least live as long as possible. And they are spending enormous amounts of money. And there are thousands, at this point, thousands of businesses dedicated to helping people live forever. So I'll just read you a little bit of it in this first reading, and perhaps some more in the second. So this is from the Brave New World Department at the Atlantic Magazine. It says the subtitle is As Researchers Work to Make Death Optional, Investors See a Chance for Huge Returns. But has the human body already reached its limit? Is that an answer?
It sounds like Formula One.
Okay, let me read a little bit about it. Peter Diamandis is 5 feet 4 and has pipe-stem legs, but his torso widens into broad shoulders, powerful biceps, and a craggy Homeric head. The composite effect is that of a genie emerging from a lamp. Our wish is his command, and our wish surely must be for more time to make wishes, for limitless life. In December, Diamandis stood before 200 doctors and scientists and vowed that in the coming decade our wish would begin to come true. It's either a hardware problem or a software problem, and we are going to be able to fix that. Diamandis was at the Buck Institute for Research on Aging north of San Francisco to address the round table of longevity clinics. He wore his customary outfit, black sneakers, black jeans, and a black t-shirt. Having one look and one message, Life just gets more abundant, spares him decision fatigue. An ebullient spirit, whose confidence is tempered at times by his reverence for data. He acknowledges the task was immense. We have 40 trillion cells in our body, and every cell is running 1 to 2 billion chemical reactions per second. It's not possible for any human being to understand this. We are linear thinkers in an exponential world. Yet, with robots soon able to run 1 million experiments a day, with AI poised to parse our cellular code, how long could immortality take? He observed that his clients at Fountain Life, a longevity clinic he established, were already on their way to freedom from disease. They'd have early access to emergent tech, such as a blood filter, which can filter out metastatic cancer, and a transmitter that uses high-frequency waves to diagnose strokes and zap depression. Remission in a week with 10 minutes per day therapy. Diamandis, who is 64, has a bachelor's degree in molecular genetics, a master's in aerospace engineering from MIT, as well as a medical degree from Harvard. But he's not a practicing doctor, engineer, or scientist. He's an emissary from the realms of possibility. After growing up on Long Island in a family of Greek immigrants, he began making his dent in the universe by founding some 24 businesses, many of which involve voyaging to space. As a young entrepreneur, he formulated Peter's laws, which included, if you can't win, change the rules. And when forced to compromise, ask for more. He promotes the inevitability of longevity through a multitude of channels. There's the clinic, which he started with 2 doctors and the motivational speaker Tony Robbins. There's a newsletter, 2 podcasts, and books on the future and how to stick around for it. There are partnerships and venture funds devoted to AI and biotech. An annual conference, Abundance 360, would showcase advances in nanotechnology and brain-computer interfaces, and a semi-annual platinum trip where for $70,000 apiece, people get to meet eminent longevity scientists, invest in their experimental therapies, and secure those therapies for personal use. One more. Diamandis Network, known to its constituents as Peterverse, is largely peopled by slim-grained, well-off men who finger their aura rings like Horcruxes. America's richest now live a dozen years longer than its poorest, and they intend to widen their lead. Jeff Bezos, Yuri Milner, and Sam Altman have all funded anti-aging research. Joel Huizinga, the CEO of Ecoceutical, a startup whose water-based drink aims to reverse cellular age, told me, we don't work in mice, we work in billionaires. I will stop.
That reminds me of someone I know. When you can't win, change the rules.
Yeah,
Sounds familiar, all right.
Oh, yes.
we're all subjected to that person.
Yes. I have a 100-year-old friend. She's turning 100 this weekend. I've walked with her for years, but I can't keep. We've stopped walking side by side because I can't keep up with her anymore.
Yeah.
She's totally amazing. She still drives. She still takes classes. She's a bit of an artist. She's going to live forever.
Well, it sounds like she's going to live a while longer anyway.
Yes, she is, at least. Yeah.
Do you remember the Sybil at the start of The Wasteland when we read it? You know,
Mhm.
the Sybil who wanted, asked to be exempted from death. She wanted to live forever, but her only wish now was that she could die.
Yes.
I want to die, you know.
Who was the
Right.
author that wrote that a book about people who didn't die? It was a
Gulliver's Travels.
well, not Gulliver's Travels, but
Mm.
this
There's,
was it was, oh golly, he wrote a million books. And it was that the people who didn't die lived on an island, and how bad it was for how it wasn't anything to be desired. All the things that they ran into for not dying.
yeah, there's in Gulliver's Travels they have a strange name, the Strudelbergs or something, and they don't die,
Mhm.
and they just keep on living. And yeah,
Would these be the same as vampires?
no, not exactly. No, they just get older and older, but they never die.
Yeah.
Bring bloodsuckers stuff.
I think the Sybil was in Eliot. I think the Sybil forgot to mention that she wanted to stay young. I think
Stay
was that
young
it?
was the problem.
Yes,
Yeah, that's
right.
it.
And she started to get old, yeah,
Yeah.
or something like that, yeah,
She got her wish from the god Apollo, which she
yeah,
couldn't change. But
yeah,
she had forgotten to ask for not to age.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I love that reversing cellular development.
Yeah,
If someone's at you, do you go back into a pram? Like
I know.
if they don't switch it off in time, do you end up being 4 years old again, having tantrums?
I was talking to somebody yesterday, and she was talking about her children. She's a young baby, and she said to me, "Babies dream before they're born." And
Oh,
I said, "Is that true?" And she said, "Yeah." And then I thought of a story, one of Beckett's novels, and he goes back into, like he says, he remembers before he was born. He's kind of,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
Beckett used to say that about
there's lots of
himself.
things we kind of we don't know or we're not sure of, but
Yeah.
yeah.
There were two authors that wrote a book by the same name. The book was called Blindness, and it's
Oh, this.
Oh, Saramago.
Saramago. Yeah, I think he's the one who wrote this book about the people who didn't die.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a theme that keeps on popping up over and over and over again.
The Portrait of Dorian Gray.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dorian Gray.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
There's something terrible about not being able to get out of this, isn't there?
Yeah.
Maybe just not this minute, but not to be always. I suppose you could always step under a train or something if you really wanted out in the brave new world.
Mm.
Now they probably have trains that stopped, in time and all organized. Yeah.
Well, I think that the fantasy, I will call it a fantasy. The fantasy of living forever is very damaging.
Mm.
And I really think that the current version of it, where somehow AI or the Ray Kurzweil thing, which is that we're going to upload our brains into a computer, kind of a matrix type thing, that this, it completely removes these people. I'm talking about the people who can afford to conceive of this. It completely removes them from any sympathy with regular people
Yeah, it does, of course.
because they think they can buy their way. They might be able to buy their way out of it, but certainly not all the other people can do that.
Yeah, no matter how long they live, their wealth will not last forever, unless they can do away with the need for food, clothes, and shelter.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that's explored quite a lot in Star Trek,
Yeah,
where they come across the drifting spaceship
yeah.
and half a dozen people are cryogenically preserved. So they
Yeah.
restore them. And of course, one of the guys, the first thing he wants to do is ring his accountant because he's got savings that should have grown to huge amounts of money. And they say
Yeah.
money no longer exists in this world, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's.
Well, I know the Saramago book made it sound very unpleasant to live forever.
Yeah, and there's actually a either an Indian English or Pakistani English writer, I can't remember his name right now, who wrote a book. The conceit was that he could implant his brain in a younger body.
Yeah.
And then it goes into, he does a very good job. In this rather short book, he does a very good job of pointing out all the contradictions that happen if you were able to do that. It's quite an entertaining book, and I thought pretty enlightening as well.
Yeah, you know that kind of anecdote of I think it was Churchill sitting at a dinner beside this very good-looking woman, and she's talking to him, and she says, "We should get married because imagine our children with your brain and my looks, how great it'd be." And he said, "But what if they had your brain and my looks?" You know?
Well, that killed that engagement.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah, he just insulted her up and down right there. All right. Well, we'll go on. Let's go on to Joe. When we circle
Okay.
around the second time, if I have a chance, I'll read a few more paragraphs. So, Joe,
Right.
onward.
Okay. Well, I'm going to. I was looking for something that would connect Ireland and the United States of America, and I have a little piece which takes us backwards in time that does. And I'm going to send you a photo picture, and if you wanted to enlarge it on the screen, it will help you understand. You see, I hope it comes up to the big size.
Well, here it is.
But you were looking at, if you've got it, you're looking at an Irish £5 note.
Yeah.
And that is my link between Ireland and America. One of the things I dislike about the euro is that Ireland no longer has its currency. For the second time in 200 years, our currency was abolished when we joined the euro. But the state used to put messages about Ireland on the money, you see? And there you can see 3 children at school, as it were, small class.
Yeah.
And you'll notice a map of Europe in the background hovering over them. That's the thing. And on the book, on the desk, child's desk, on the left of the picture is the history of Ireland written in Irish. And there's a blackboard up on the wall. And you see in the beautiful original Irish script that I remember the day it went out of fashion in school, we moved on to from our own alphabet onto the Latin alphabet. And some of us, most people will know what's written there. And that's the poem I'm going to read. You'll be delighted to know that it's 4 lines long. In fact, it's 12 lines long, but we're only going to do 4 lines of it. And this is about a man called Antoine or Anthony Raftery, who was a poet in Ireland. He was born in 1779 and he died in 1835. The poet was always a poet in Ireland, was always what would you call it? A revered character, connected with the wealthy Irish houses. The aristocracy lived in fear of satire. And of course, poets can do satire, and they could just destroy a thing. they were, with the disappearance of that aristocracy in the 16th century, the poets were left to basically walking the roads, scraping a living. They were always poor people, and now their only audience were the poor. But they were also became the educators because they had huge volumes of knowledge. For instance, people are surprised that there are publications in Ireland in Irish of epics, and they were orally preserved and orally transmitted and orally performed by Shanachie, who were our equivalents of a Homer. The last Shanachie reciting poetry the length of the Iliad and the Odyssey died in 1984. That recently, and spoke only Irish. He had no English whatsoever, and which is a remarkable achievement in modern Ireland. And Raftery is one of these guys, and his very little of his stuff is written down. This is this would be the book of his main works. That's the size of it, you see. But he would have had a lot more oral works. And
Can you hold that up a little more?
Show us the cover.
There you go. He was, as the book says, blind Raftery. He was blind.
Oh, blind Raftery.
And this is for you especially, I should have said at the outset, because he was from County Mayo. And he has written a famous poem called County Mayo. Well, Tom and Donna and Orla will know. Anish Chachtan Arik Began Law Dolcachina, you know, this is a Fela Brita.
Fela Brita or Doi Memohon.
Doi Memohon, yes, yeah. Modified in the polite Irish from raising my arse to raising my sail. Anyway, be that as it may, and that is a wonderful poem. You could organize a field trip around County Mayo based on Raftery's poem, County Mayo. But what has this to do with America? Well, in 1882 in Los Angeles, a newspaper, which was in an Irish newspaper, Irish language newspaper, and there may not have been one in Ireland at that stage, I am not sure, but an Irish language newspaper in Los Angeles was having a debate about Irish poets among its correspondents. And a man with the unlikely name of Sean Kelly wrote a letter saying that he, when young, had met Raftery. Raftery had to leave County Mayo due to causing the death of a landlord's horse. How a blind man could cause the death of a landlord's horse is unknown, but that was the story. And he moved to the other side of the island down to County Wexford. And this man, Sean Kelly, that's like, you know, John Smith in Ireland. He said he had been in a dance hall and he was listening to the man playing the music. And he went and he saw he was blind. And he asked him who he was. And he answered those lines on the £5 note. Bishir after an fila londokis gra, the suligan solus lectionis constad. I am the poet Raftery, a man full of hope and love. With no light in my eyes, my peace is undisturbed. And it goes on for another 4 lines. But there's the link between ancient Irish poetry and America. I did say it was rather a weak little presentation, but yeah, you have it there. So, and I still long for that money where we used to have, you know, wonderful animals depicted and so on. We now have God knows what depicted.
It reminds me, Joe, you know, when you mentioned the fiver.
I said beautiful,
you know,
Irish. Sorry, Tom.
Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful Irish. Yeah. You mentioned the fiver.
Yeah, the famous, when they were in McDade's pub, and they were all talking about angst and, you know, suffering from everything, you know, and Kavanagh said, not enough angst that a fiver wouldn't cure, you know.
Yeah. Can I do the last four lines as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Do you want to say it, Tony? Do you know you might have? I'll say Fécanish megs ma aigle bala ag shenam kyo
Joe,
okay
totally
fulla.
full of, yeah.
Yeah, consider me now with my face to the wall, playing music for pockets that are empty.
Yeah.
Full of being empty in Irish, full of. So it's fantastic. It is actually considered by experts to be a genuine poem by Raftery.
Mm.
It says it has all the characteristics of his writing, and
The other one is the other one, Joe. You know, the Antimid fast gan Imid.
they're in a creator lore.
Well,
Yeah,
That is as well. Kiladon. I think maybe it isn't him. Yeah.
I think that is Raftery, isn't it? The
Yeah.
ends of the forests. Yeah, yeah.
I didn't realize when we were learning that at school that it was Raftery, or that it was so important as it was being beaten into us.
And you see on the pound fiver note they're little children, because you learned that. I must have been 7 years of age when. Because it's very simple. And,
Small babies and high babies,
Yeah, in high babies, that was us. Yeah, yeah.
I think that is a first for me to see little school children on a banknote.
Yeah, yeah. And they're all studying and thinking hard, It's really wonderful.
Yeah, very lovely.
But he's got poems like the drinker's praise of whiskey. And the drinkers quarrel with whiskey. He fights with whiskey like it's a person. The new schools, of course, the schools coming up, the national schools displaced what were called the hedge schools, that a lot of poets were teachers. And in fact, in James Joyce's family, on his father's side, I think his great grandfather was a school teacher. And that would have been in what they were called the hedge schools.
Right.
Which means he would have been a fella. He would have been probably a poet. So our James may well have inherited some of these ancient.
The head school was actually the secret Catholic schools, as I understand.
Yeah, there were very rigid rules against Irish people and all sorts of things. Like you couldn't mention the name Ireland and things like that. But like the poetry Irish poetry goes back to the 11th century in established tradition. I am just holding in my hand a standard textbook, Irish syllabic poetry from 1200 to 1600. Like that's before there was an English language. There was a
Right. My understanding was that actually the bigwigs lived in terror of Irish poets writing a negative poem about them. That it was almost
they think of awful words that rhyme with Duncan, and every verse would end with a sort of a couplet, which took your name, dragged it through the mud and rhymed, and everyone could remember it. I think that's where.
Joe, the book that you put up, the one that was called had Raftery. Show me that first book again.
The first book there, Blind Raftery.
Okay, and that's a book about him. That's a book of his.
It's a selection of most of his poems, and an account of his history.
That's Christopher O'Flynn, is it?
Christopher O'Flynn, yeah, Christopher. And what's the name of the first president? What's the name?
Douglas Hyde.
Douglas Hyde is the man who gathered these poems orally. Captured it. There is also now, I think it still exists, the Irish Folklore Commission, which sought to document all that sort of stuff. But Douglas Hyde was the first, to go out around and collect these things. Much, much later, just at the tail end of it.
Right.
So, and Sing would have been similar. We're beginning to touch on our Thursday night friends, Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's
Excellent.
it. Anyway, there you go. My attempt to link Ireland and America through poetry.
Great. Thank you very much. That's excellent.
Very
Another
thoughtful.
copy of that newspaper in Los Angeles from 1882.
Yeah. So Orla, I guess we are ready for you.
No distinct. So it was a throw up between Rilke, but I have to read more Rilke because he was so influenced by Rodin, and he worked for him. And then he was very influenced by Cézanne because of his objectivity. And I thought it was so good because Rodin told him to just stare at something for long enough and then write a poem. But this is what I'm going to read from is a poems by Jack Gilbert called it's from a book called Refusing Heaven from 2005.
Oh, yes.
And he was loosely friends of Ginsberg and people like that, but he saw himself as a romantic.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a poem called A Brief for the Defense. Sorrow everywhere, slaughter everywhere. If babies are not starving someplace, they are starving somewhere else, with flies in their nostrils. But we enjoy our lives because that's what God wants. Otherwise, the mornings before summer dawn would not be made so fine. The Bengal tiger would not be fashioned so miraculously well. The poor women at the fountain are laughing together between the suffering they have known and the awfulness in their future, smiling and laughing while somebody in the village is very sick. There is laughter every day in the terrible streets of Calcutta, and the women laugh in the cages of Bombay. If we deny our happiness, resist our satisfaction, we lessen the importance of their deprivation. We must risk delight. We can do without pleasure, but not delight, not enjoyment. We must have the stubbornness to accept our gladness in the ruthless furnace of this world. To make injustice the only measure of our attention is to praise the devil. If the locomotive of the Lord runs us down, we should give thanks that the end had magnitude. We must admit there will be music despite everything. We stand at the prow again of a small ship, anchored late at night in the tiny port, looking over to the sleeping island. The waterfront is 3 shuttered cafes and 1 naked light burning. To hear the faint sound of oars in the silence as a rowboat comes slowly out and then goes back is truly worth all the years of sorrow that are to come. That's that.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
So he died in 2012, and his collected works were nominated for a Pulitzer in 2013.
Yeah.
And
Jack
what is his name again, Orla?
Jack Gilbert.
Jack Gilbert.
He is a modern he was a modern itinerant poet. He rarely had a home. He mainly just wandered around. Occasionally would have a relationship, but he was pretty much on his own. Did a lot of sleeping on couches. But he was the classic wandering poet in modern times. When did he die? Or he died fairly recently, I think. Last
2012.
Yeah.
2012. Yeah, he's a lovely poet and very, very understandable. Very human, very ironic sometimes in a tender sort of way. Yeah. Do you have one more for us, Orla?
because Rilke was born in Prague, and even though he spoke German, I thought there was a link to Kafka.
Mm-hmm.
And this is called Eve. She, on the cathedral's vast ascent, simply stands there near the window rose, with the apple in the apple pose, ever henceforth guilty, innocent of the growingness she brought to birth. Since that time she lovingly departed from the old eternities and started struggling like a young year through the earth. Ah, she could have stayed so gladly, though just a little longer there, attending to the sense and concord beasts would show. But she found the man resolved to go, so she went out with him, deathward spending, and yet God she'd scarcely got to know. Rilke.
So, all right, we at this point we will circle back around to Tom.
Oh,
Are we missing
I didn't get-
Anne has to read yet?
Oh, how did that happen, Anne? Did I just skip you
Yeah.
entirely?
Yeah, I think so, but that's okay. I'll tell you what I am intrigued about is Kafka, and as well as a writer, he was a poet and a artist. So a week ago, I ordered a book of his drawings from the library, and unfortunately, I didn't get it today. But can you see this? Let's see.
Yes,
Yeah.
looking over the desk.
Right, the man at the desk, the despair of writing or whatever.
Mhm.
But they're very graphic, almost a silhouette
Yes.
type
Mhm.
work. So I'm going to say that when let's see, I have another image here that you might see in your books.
Oh,
Oh God.
When-
Yeah.
Yeah, when I get the book from the library, I will share that. Give me a few minutes at one of our readings because
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think it'll be very interesting. But so in the meantime, what I did is I don't really know Seamus Heaney's poetry. I know some of the work, but I
Mhm.
don't know. I haven't read him in depth, but I would like to. That's on my list. But I found a
Okay.
poem that's short, but it's very interesting, I think. He was from Northern Ireland and farm community, and so a lot of his work has meaning in terms of the work of the farm. But this poem is called "The Pitchfork." Of all implements, the pitchfork was the one that came near to as an imagined perfection. When he tightened his raised hand and aimed with it, it felt like a javelin, accurate and light. So whether he played the warrior or the athlete or worked in earnest in the chafe and sweat, he loved its grain of a tapering, dark flecked ash, grown satiny from its own natural polish. Riveted steel, turned timber, burnished grain, smoothness, straightness, roundness, length, and sheen. Sweat cured, sharpened, balanced, tested, fitted, the springiness, the clip, and the dart of it. And then, when he thought of probes that reached the farthest, he would see the shaft of a pitchfork sailing past evenly, imperturbably through space, its prongs starlit and absolutely soundless, but has learned at last to follow that simple lead past its own aim out to an outer side where perfection or nearness to it is imagined, not in the aiming, but in the opening hand.
Hmm.
I kind of see that last sentence too as the opening hand. Maybe it's the hand holding the pen.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of his things conclude with something that turns you into a new use of an implement or.
Yes.
Mhm. Donna, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Heaney's first volume of poetry, published in the late 60s, was called Death of a Naturalist. And the first poem in that is called Digging. And it's exactly what you've been talking about. He talks about his father and his grandfather digging turf. But he says, I can't do that, but I will dig with it, which is my pen.
Yeah.
If you're interested, there is a Seamus Heaney book club. You'd have to get up early, I think, because it's 1:00 club every month. And they take a volume of Heaney's poems, and there's an introduction by the Heaney Centre, and then people can pick and read whatever poems they wish. If you want the details, I'll happily send them on to you.
Okay, great. I would love that.
Yeah, will you stick your email in the chat? I'll check it over.
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay.
You could also send it along to me, Donna, and I could post it on the
Great.
Monday book
For
club.
everybody. Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great. I love our format here. I love, it's really nice to see what people are thinking about and reacting to as we go over this material. It's great. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you. It was very lovely to share. So we would come back to Tom.
Yeah. Okay, I'll read a poem by Carol Ann Duffy, who was born in Glasgow in 1955, but she moved to England, Manchester, when she was about 5 years of age. But she became the first poet laureate in England, a female poet laureate in I think it was 1999. She was poet laureate for 10 years. But she has lots of interesting poems. But I'm going to just read from one of her books, The World's Wife, in which she takes people from mythical people and real people, but she writes from the point of their wives or individual female mythical or historical figures. So she has the likes of Queen Herod, Mrs. Midas, Pilate's wife, Mrs. Aesop, Mrs. Darwin, Mrs. Sisyphus, Delilah, and she has Circe there as well. But the one I'm going to read is, and she kind of gives them a modern kind of thing, but the one I'm going to read is Salome.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'd done it before, and doubtless I'll do it again, sooner or later. Woke up with a head on the pillow beside me. Whose? What did it matter? Good looking, of course, dark hair, rather matted. The reddish beard, several shades lighter, with very deep lines round the eyes, from pain, I'd guessed, maybe laughter, and a beautiful crimson mouth that obviously knew how to flatter, which I kissed, colder than pewter. Strange. What was his name? Peter? Simon? Andrew? John? I knew I'd feel better for tea, dry toast, no butter. So rang for the maid, and, indeed, her innocent clatter of cups and plates, her clearing of clutter, her regional patter, were just what I needed, hung over and wrecked as I was from a night on the batter. Never again. I needed to clean up my act, get fitter, cut out the booze and the fags and the sex. Yes, and as for the latter, it was time to turf out the blighter, the beater or biter, who'd come like a lamb to the slaughter, to Salome's bed. In the mirror, I saw my eyes glitter. I flung back the sticky red sheets, and there, like I said, and ain't life a bitch, was his head on a platter. Yeah.
Oh, God. What's her name again?
It's Carol Ann Duffy. Yeah.
Caroline Duffy. My God.
I mean, that's just one of her kind of books on that kind of particular thing. But
Yeah, yeah.
she has other volumes that have lovely poems in them. Yeah, yeah.
That
Whoa.
those first lines, shall we say, definitely grab one's attention.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
uh, yeah. She goes like that. And she's Mrs. Icarus there,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
the Devil's Wife is there, and I just, oh yeah, I just read a very short one. This is Mrs. Darwin, and she has the 7th of April, 1852. Went to the zoo. I said to him something about that chimpanzee over there reminds me of you. Yeah, so that's Miss. That was Mrs. Darwin, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh,
I think she was right. Definitely
Yeah.
some of the images of Darwin, he
Yeah,
does have a very apish physiognomy.
yeah.
oh. Yeah, it's a terrific subject, isn't it? You could think, say, Christopher Columbus's wife,
Yeah,
when he said he
yeah.
was going on this trip, you know.
I know, yeah,
Imagine-
yeah,
I can't put it out, but there's got to be a great joke in that somewhere.
yeah,
Hope he'll fall off the edge, you know.
yeah.
Get the insurance policy.
Well, you know, there's a book, and I think it's based upon something real. It's one of Christopher Columbus's sons who
Yeah.
became a collector of books and ephemera,
Right.
and apparently collected absolutely everything. Advertising, political pamphlets,
Yeah, yeah.
whatever. And he had to, you know, anyway, the images, he just has this huge warehouse chock full of written material.
Yeah.
All right, we have a little bit more time. Joan, you have something you wanna share with
Yeah,
us?
I haven't thought about this very much, but oh God, where did it go? I had it. Oh, here. This is by Michael Welbeck. He was a French poet known as a very bad boy. Somebody once sent me a book of his and then told me not to read it.
That's something like planting the tree of good and evil in the Garden of Eden and telling them not to
Yeah.
eat.
Don't eat that stuff.
That was it. I did read it.
Yeah.
I did.
Page turner.
But this is a poem of his, and it can be read in mixed company. My life, my very old one, my first badly healed desire, my first crippled love, you had to return. It was necessary to know what is best in our lives, when two bodies play at happiness, unite, reborn without end. Entered into complete dependency, I know the trembling of being, the hesitation to disappear. Sunlight upon the forest edge, in love where all is easy, where all is given in an instant. There exists in the midst of time the possibility of an island. I think that was taken from a book of his that was called The Possibility of an Island.
Right.
That's Michael Welbeck.
That's Walbeck.
No, it's H. I can't, I don't have it written out. It's HOEILLBQUE, something like that.
Holbeck, okay, something.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, but he is a well-known French writer.
He's a writer of novels by any chance?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
He writes yes, he is known as a bad boy
Yeah.
for sure.
In terms of Joyce, because Joyce's letters would fit wonderfully would be mild compared, no, wouldn't be mild, would fit wonderfully with Welbeck.
Mhm.
I read Atomized, but the thing I remembered most about Atomized was the Xanax. When the character Budgie dies and he goes looking for Xanax. And it was that sort of, that, because at the time, you know, when you're a bit younger, you don't realize that people need help in certain circumstances, and that the worst thing that man thought that could have happened to him was his Budgie dying. And when they get in with the sex mad people who are killers, you remember the in the book there's and he said, well, you're not to engage them, they're just materialists, they're obviously not Satanists, because if they believed in anything they wouldn't be doing that. Sorry. You know, when you're younger and you read things, you only remember very little.
Yep. Yep. And you understand even less. All right, we have just a little bit more to go. Someone want to leap to the fore here? We don't have to go in order. If you
Yeah,
have a
thanks, Ed.
passionate desire to share a particular something, okay, Donna, you have spoken.
Yeah, just in conjunction with my earlier piece, Milton wrote many sonnets. They didn't have titles. They were known by numbers. And this is particularly pertinent to what you mentioned about his blindness. It's known as Sonnet 19, and it goes as follows. When I consider how my light is spent, ere half my days in this dark world and wide, and that one talent, which is death to hide, lodged with me useless. Though my soul more bent to serve there with my Maker, and present my true account, lest he returning chide. Doth God exact day labour like denied, I fondly ask, but patience to prevent that murmur soon replies. God doth not need either man's work or his own gifts. Who best bear his mild yoke, they serve him best. His state is kingly, thousands at his bidding speed, and post o'er land and ocean without rest. They also serve who only stand and wait.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Lovely,
Boy,
lovely reading of it.
yes.
I had a summer job when I was 14 years of age, and in Eason's, you know, the bookstore in Dublin, but not in the books, in the fancy goods department, which was all mail order. And I don't know what I was supposed to be doing. I was supposed to be helping in the stock room. I didn't think I did very little, but the lady in charge of it would kind of send me out to get things, and I'd go over and collect alarm clocks and all sorts of stuff. But it involved a lot of standing beside her desk. And she detected my impatience, and she looked up at me one day and said, "They also serve who only stand and wait, Joe."
Yeah.
I said, you know, I'd say I was hopping from foot to foot, you know.
Oh, that's very, very nice. And you
Yeah.
remembered it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was, you know, criticism. It was severe criticism, you know.
Very nicely put.
Yeah, yeah. And then when we came to do that poem in school, I remembered.
Yeah.
Miss Wright was her name, spelled with a W.
Miss White.
Miss Wright.
This is right.
Perfect name.
Would that be
okay.
sounding,
Mm.
that poem?
Tony Orland?
Sounding.
Yeah.
Soundings is a school book.
Mm.
Oh, right, yeah. That would have been after my time, I'm afraid.
Me too.
I did senior poetry.
That's after my time too.
Well, thanks, everybody.
Yeah, this is
Thank you,
wonderful.
Duncan.
Lovely session.
Very
Yeah, I
fun.
have several books to pursue, and I have a bunch of memories just in this one reading. It's very
Yeah,
nice.
this is great.
I think this
Okay.
was a great idea you had to do this.
I
Yeah.
don't know whose idea it was.
I thought it was yours. No? Can't take can't take the blame for that, huh?
Or the
Blame
credit.
credit, whatever. I'm just glad that it, it works really well, and I think it's a nice break just from,
Mhm.
regular reading.
Yeah.
A little
Yeah, it
thing where
is.
we can be
It's
more free form, and everybody brings such different types of
Yeah.
material.
Yeah.
It's
It is.
it's like, and I'm definitely going to look for Carol Ann Duffy.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I
And
have
I'm
to
gonna
see
I'm
if
gonna
she
look.
topped her Salome poem or not, because that was
Yeah,
pretty astounding.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna look for that longevity you talked about,
Yeah.
so that I can read all the books that have been presented.
Oh, okay,
Yes, you need. You would need.
That's an Atlantic magazine.
Okay,
I think the most current issue.
yeah,
So thanks, everybody. I'll keep you posted about where my whereabouts and availability and all that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good.
And something will get worked out. I'm just not
Yeah.
quite sure. And it may turn out that I can, open up and participate in every meeting. I just don't know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll find out.
Okay.
Okay.